Hello, people. Welcome to this webinar. Let's get started. First, who am I? My name is Martin Bekkelund. I'm a senior cloud architect at Varnish Software. I'm a part of the tools and platforms team. You can see my email here if you have some questions for me later on. But we also have this chat option in the GoTo app that you can use if you have questions during the talk. And I will try to answer them at the end of the webinar. So in this webinar, we will cover Varnish Cache in the cloud, where to find it, how to start using Varnish Cache on AWS, how to find it, buy it, and launch an instance on the marketplace. We will set up a load balancer in front of Varnish, and we will have an example web server that we will use as a backend for Varnish. We will also configure autoscaling, where we will scale Varnish based on incoming traffic. And finally, we will be building an S3 gateway with Varnish Cache. So Varnish Cache in the cloud is currently based on pre-built images. It's available for all the three largest cloud providers at the moment. It's Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. Our images are available both for Ubuntu and Red Hat. And Varnish is installed with a working config on the instances. But we have also added Hitch and Varnish agent to the images. So Hitch will let you do HTTPS termination on the instance, while the Varnish agent is used by tools like Varnish Administration Console, which is a graphical user interface for monitoring, trending, and pushing configuration to your Varnish instances. So for this, we have created some screencasts because doing things on Amazon normally involves some waiting, and that's probably a bad idea for a webinar. So in this first screencast, we will show you how to locate our images on the marketplace, where you can find overview, the usage, pricing, and support details, and so on. We will launch an image there, and we will review the purchase on EC2. And finally, we will connect to the Varnish instance using SSH, and we will start a simple web server and configure it to be a backend for Varnish to use. So let's start this first one. So this is the marketplace. You have a search bar on top where you can search for Varnish software. You can see a list of our images here. For this demo, we're going to use the Varnish Cache 4.1 for Ubuntu. So you click that, you can have an overview. You will see the pricing, which software version we have, which regions are supported. You have usage instructions and support details. And you can continue to subscribe, and you will have some information about the different subscriptions that you can have. So then also you get a list of the instance types and the cost for each of them. So continue to configuration. You select the AMI, and you get a list of available software versions. Typically, you would of course go for the latest one. And you select the region you want to launch it in. And you continue to launch. And then you have the instance type you want to run. And you have the VPC settings, subnets, network, and security groups. So if you don't have that set up already, you can create new ones directly from here. And finally, you can click the launch button. So Now we can head over to the EC2 console and we can see that we actually have our new instance running there. And there you go. If you take a look down here, you can see the public DNS. So if you copy that, we can verify that we can actually remotely log into the instance. So you use SSH and you provide Ubuntu as a username, and then you input the key that you specified in the configuration. And you can see that Varnish is running there. Yep. What we can do now is we can start a simple web server. We're going to use the built-in Python one for that. Let's try to start this on port 80. And we can see that it's running. And finally, we can try to curl it to see if we get some contents. Yes, we do. So what if we try to curl the Varnish port right now? We will get a backend fetch failed, and that is because the default Varnish configuration actually says port 8080, so we will have to go into the configuration and change that. Save that and restart Varnish. And we can try to curl it again. And there it is. Now it's served from Varnish. Next thing to do is setting up a load balancer. So in this screencast, we're gonna create and configure a network load balancer, and we're gonna register our targets, the instance we just made, and we're gonna test that the load balancer actually works in a terminal and in a browser. So let's move on to the next one. So select load balancers in the menu, and we will go ahead and create a new one. We're going for the network load balancer, the TCP one. And we're going to give it a name. And we're going to add the availability zones. And the target group, we will give that a name as well. And we're going to point that to the Varnish port, the default port, which is 6081. So now our load balancer will listen on port 80 and will forward to Varnish on 6081. All right, so we scroll down and we can see our instance down there. So select it and add it to the registered targets, like that. And then you will get the review, and you can choose create, and we're done. So if you take a look at the description right now, you can find the DNS record there. You have the listener, so you can see that it's listening on 80, and it's forwarding to 6081, just like we want to. You can also see that the provisioning state right now is, it is provisioning, and if you refresh it, it turns into active, so now it's available for us to test. So if we copy the DNS name from here, we should be able to get the exact same content like we did directly to the instance. Yeah, we get a 200. Okay, let's try to list the content. Yeah, that works fine. Let's see how this looks in the browser. Just verify that everything works. Yes, it does. And of course, this is not the best idea in the world to provide all your server contents through a web page, but this is just a demo. All right. So moving on to autoscaling. In this screencast, we will create a launch configuration. We will add some user data to run that Python web server when we start the instance, so that when we're autoscaling, we're actually running that as the instance starts up. We will create an autoscaling group. We will register the autoscaling group to a load balancer, the one we just created. And we will create a policy that says if we have incoming traffic over a certain point, we will scale up and we will test that this works. Worth mentioning that it's a bit hard to generate that sort of traffic for this demo, so we're not scaling up. We're going to kill the virtual machine and and see that it's actually automatically created again. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. So if we go down to the load balancer again, you can see we have the listeners tab, and where we have our target group. We're going to create an autoscaling group for this. And for this, we have to go to the AWS marketplace and find the image that we used for the first instance that we used in the first example. Just scroll down and find that one and select it. And you select the type of instance you want to use. And you give the launch configuration a name. And then we're gonna put a small shell script in here that is actually just running that Python web server. This time we're gonna run it on 8080, so it's matching the default configuration. So you don't have to worry about that. And storage we can leave be for now, and we're moving on. And we are going to use an existing security group. And review our setup. Acknowledge and create. Now we're setting up to create autoscaling group, so give that a name. And we can see that the group size we want it to start with 1. And we can select the different subnets that we want to scale into. So we're selecting all 3 for this example. Receive traffic from the load balancer. Our target group will be our Varnish Cache on 6081, and our health checks will go on to the ELB, the load balancer. And next we're gonna use some scaling policy that scales up to 3 instances. And we're not gonna scale by CPU because Varnish isn't very CPU intensive. So we're gonna scale up based on network in. And we can fill out an appropriate value here, depending on the site and setup. And we can add a tag here. It's not necessary, but it makes browsing a bit easier on the EC2. Or finding the right items. We can review what we have and we can create it. So there we go. We can now see that we have 1 instance and our desired instance amount is 1, minimum is 1, and the maximum is 3. If we go back to instances, we can see that we still have 1 running because we don't have any traffic going to that site at all in our demo. If you copy the DNS name again, you can do a curl. And we can see that this still works as previously when we created the load balancer. Now we can verify that the auto-scaling works by killing off 1 instance. Just terminate this one. And there we can see that it's terminated. And let's just try to curl it just for fun. We can see that our site is currently down. If we refresh now, we can see that we have a new instance running. So auto-scaling took care of that for us. So let's just Control-C this one. Try to curl again, maybe a bit early. It's still initializing. And finally, there we are. Yep, and we have some content as well. And that's auto-scaling. So in this final screencast, we will be having a look at building an S3 gateway with Varnish Cache. There is a blog post about this, so you have the URL in the presentation, so you can go have a look at that as well if you want to. There are many reasons you can use Varnish Cache as a gateway to S3, like caching or doing access policy, or you can use it for logging and security, or maybe just as one of the backends for your site. So yeah, there are many options here really. Let's go on. Right, so to find this blog post, you can go to Google, type S3 gateway Varnish, and you will have that as your first hit. We can go to that and take a look. You will have the step-by-step post right here with the VCL and everything. We are using a Varnish module for this, vmod, called digest. And that is not available in Varnish by default, so we will have to download and compile it. So we're going to show how we can do that. So if we Google that, we will find it on GitHub. And we can, for this example, we can go ahead and download the archive directly. We probably want to do a wget on the server, so we don't have to SCP or FTP around. So logging into the instance again. Varnish is running there. Get the URL for the archive and just download it. So let's unarchive that. And enter the directory. And of course, we will need some build tools for this, so we have to install those. And after that, we are ready to compile the vmod. And once this is complete, we can do a make install, and our vmod should be in place. Let's just check that it's actually there. And there it is. So now it's just all about creating that Varnish configuration file. So let's go into the default one and remove everything that is there and paste in the one from the blog and save it. And we have to restart Varnish. And we can head over to S3 in our browser. We have this cloud webinar folder here with some super secret stuff. And if we copy the link from here, we can see that this is not available to the world directly from S3. But if we go to the load balancer and grab the DNS name again, try to enter that, you can see that we actually have access through Varnish, because Varnish is configured to have access to that bucket by now. And if you try to view the file, you can see all the super secret passwords that are, of course, very fake. And that's it for the last screencast. A bit about getting support. So this has been a webinar about Varnish Cache. Technical support is provided through community documentation and IRC channels, mailing lists, and forums, and so on. But for professional support from Varnish Software, please upgrade to Varnish Plus, which also has some extra features that you might be interested in looking into. And that's it. Thank you for attending. This would be the right time to ask questions for sure. So if you have any, please put them in the chat and I will have a look. You can find more information, of course, on our website, and I also provided a link to our documentation, so you can find quite a lot of information there as well. Okay. Doesn't look like we have any questions for today, but should it be that you have some questions later, feel free to just send me an email. It's in the presentation. So thank you.